Old powers waken, shadows stir. An age of wonder and terror will soon be upon us. An age for gods and heroes.
The glass candles are burning, and you're listening to the Obsidian Nights podcast. Hello, my sweet summer children. I'm back with the juice to get you through the long night. And on today's episode of the Obsidian Nights podcast, where we go through A Song of Ice and Fire, chapter by chapter, we are at a milestone for Obsidian Nights. And this is the last chapter for Eddard Stark. And I'm joined today by Mitch. Mitch, would you like to let the people know who you are and where they can find you?
Hi, I'm Mitch. You can find me on Instagram at MoneyMakingMitch. I'm just a fan of the books, I guess.
Awesome. So the chapter starts off and it says, "The straw on the floor stank of urine. There was no window, no bed, not even a slop bucket. He remembered walls of pale red stone festooned with patches of nitre, a gray door of splintered wood 4 inches thick and studded with iron. He had seen them briefly, a quick glimpse as they shoved him inside. Once the door had slammed shut, he had seen no more. The dark was absolute. He had as well been blind or dead, buried with his king." So this chapter is Ned Stark in the dungeons of the Red Keep. And the dungeons of the Red Keep are like the creepiest place to be. And it's like the way it's described throughout this chapter, it's absolutely fucking miserable. I wouldn't want to be there. Like he has to basically poop and pee on himself. He doesn't get anything to drink. He doesn't get anything to eat. Like he's just in there. Like I don't even think they care. I mean, they gotta care if he lives or dies, but it doesn't seem like it, at least to me. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think Cersei need him to live because they need him to say that Joffrey is the rightful heir. So I think that's the only reason Cersei want him to live. But yeah, I think they just trying to break him right now, like by not feeding him and stuff.
Yeah, like some torture. Kind of like how, like today, like if you were arrested, they might like I know I watch a lot of First 48. so I've seen them.
I was gonna go jail too.
I've seen them like just straight put people in a room and like it's cold in there. They'll have their arms inside their shirts, like freezing cold. Like they just want to get out of that room. So they'll like do whatever just to get out of that place. So it lots of times it leads to them like confessing to stuff.
Yeah. So like at the beginning, he said he just was like sleeping, like it was just he was closing his eyes, opening his eyes to the same stuff, just sleeping. And like, I don't know if you ever been in jail. I've been in jail before, and it's like when you just sitting there, it's just all you can do is sleep. You know what I mean? Like, so like I can get that, but it's kind of like what like in what it was the Dance of the Dragons when the guy they had tortured him so bad and he was just confessing to anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's what they were just basically trying to break his will so he could just say whatever they want him to say.
Well, to Ned's credit, I will say that this isn't going to break his will. Like if they think the dungeons are going to break his will, that's really not what breaks him and gets him to confess. It's more so, well, we'll talk about it when we get there, but I don't feel like it's this. I feel like he's stronger than this. But it's interesting though, because while he's down there, like he thinks of Robert and then he immediately goes to the crypts of Winterfell. And the crypts is a very like dungeonous, dark place. Nothing like the dungeons of the Red Keep. But he says, he remembered the jest the king had shared in the crypts of Winterfell. As the kings of winter looked on with cold stone eyes, the king eats, Robert had said, and the hand takes the shit. How he laughed. Yet he had gotten it wrong. The king dies, Ned Stark thought, and the hand is buried. So I would say Ned, poor fucking Ned. Like, he got himself in this situation. He just by not being as cunning as the people around him, or not thinking that people were capable of awful things, even though he knows for a fact people are capable of awful things. He never really considers it. And it leads to Robert getting killed, and it leads to him being placed in the dungeon. If he had went along with Littlefinger, I still think they would have killed him though, or they would have plotted to like have him removed if he knew Cersei's secret, because Cersei would never trust anybody knowing her secret, that she like coming to her and saying like, I know your fucking secret.
I thought Littlefinger's plan was to take Joffrey from Cersei.
Yeah, and put Joffrey on the throne.
You can't put any way you put Joffrey on the throne, everybody's gonna die.
Well, basically, Ned would be his regent. Ned would rule for him.
Joffrey would have chopped Ned's head off regardless and brought his mom back.
Yeah. I mean, part of why Joffrey does it, I think, is simply just to do it. There's no rhyme or reason behind it other than probably hurting Sansa.
Just to be cruel, yeah.
Yeah, just to be cruel. So Ned talks about the dungeons under the Red Keep. He said the dungeon was under the Red Keep, deeper than he dared imagine. He remembered the old stories about Maegor the Cruel, who murdered all the masons who labored on his castle so they might never reveal its secrets. So the dungeons of the Red Keep are like, there's 4 levels, and the deeper it goes, like the worse the people are. So like at this time, Ned is in these dungeons. There's some other people that we know that are in those same dungeons. Jack and Hagar, Biter, and Rourke, which is interesting because we never hear from Ned again after this chapter. So we don't know if he had any interaction with Ned Stark. But I wonder, like later when Varys comes down, I wonder if they could overhear that conversation. Like when Varys is like, we don't know where Arya is. She escaped.
Yeah, I guess depending how far those are.
Yeah, those dungeons always creep me out, especially when we get to dance and like Qyburn's in there doing weird shit to those girls, or Feast. Like Qyburn's down there torturing those girls, and yeah.
So wait, so Ned is in the Black Cells? He's not in the regular dungeons?
No, I think he's in the Black Cells.
Oh, they cruddy.
They call them the Black Cells because you can't see shit.
Yeah,
that's completely black, and that's what he's describing.
I thought he was in the regular cells. I thought his cell was just dark.
I mean, maybe it doesn't really say. It doesn't really say, but I would think, like they say, the Black Cells are for the worst criminals.
Yeah,
and Ned is accused.
Treason.
Yeah, Ned is accused of treason. So
it gotta be horrible. His leg throbbing.
Yeah, he has no pain medicine. He doesn't know what's going on with his kids. It's pretty bad. So he says he damned them all. Littlefinger, Janos Slynt, and his gold cloaks. The Queen, the Kingslayer, Pycelle and Varys, and Sir Barristan, even Lord Renly, Robert's own blood, who had run when he was needed most. Yet in the end, he blamed himself. Fool, he cried to the darkness. Thrice damned blind fool. Cersei Lannister's face seemed to float before him in the darkness. Her hair was full of sunlight, but there was a mockery in her smile. When you play the Game of Thrones, you win or you die, she whispered. Ned had played and lost, and his men had paid the price of his folly with their life's blood. So, first of all, Littlefinger has betrayed Ned Stark. Janos Slynt also betrayed Ned Stark. Cersei never betrayed him. Cersei just didn't listen to him. Jaime, I
feel like Janos never betrayed him either, because Littlefinger said he was gonna get Janos for him, but he never talked to Slynt himself.
But didn't when he walked in there, didn't Janos Slynt give him a nod?
I mean,
or say we're with you.
I feel like he was always Littlefinger, man. Nod to him.
Yeah, it was kind of messed up.
He just trusted everybody. That's crazy. You don't know none of these people.
Yeah, and he expects people to
be honorable like him.
Yeah, and to like when Varys comes there and he tells Varys, like, you didn't do anything. Well, like, what do you want Varys to do? Like, what do you want these people to do? And like, he's like saying, damn Sir Barristan, but like, what did Sir Barristan do? Like, you don't even know what's going on. And I absolutely don't agree with him when he's like pissed off at Renly, because Renly offered him
Yeah,
swords.
Renly wanted to take Joffrey.
Yeah. Renly wanted to take Joffrey. And he offered Ned swords, and Ned was like,
yeah,
I will not dishonor Robert's final hours with
so
this.
Why you mad at him for getting out of the way before it went down? Like, he gave you, he offered you people you needed, and he's like, let's do it now. You like, no, I can't do it like that. I gotta show mercy. She got children. Like, oh man, they weren't showing your kids no mercy.
Exactly. Like, it makes no sense that he's mad at Renly. And then how are you mad at Renly, but you're not mad at Stannis? Like, Robert knew that Cersei's kids were bastards, and Robert left.
Stannis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
Stannis
I think the
left.
Stannis thing was kind of the same way. Like, what can I do outside of saying that they bastard? You know what I mean? Like, how can I prove it? I think his plan all along, once he figured it out, once Jon Arryn died, I think his plan was straight. Get Edric Storm, prove that they not the real kids. I think when he went back to Dragonstone, his wife already had Melisandre there. That just changed his whole schemes.
Yeah. I mean, I just feel like he should have told him. He should have fucking told him, and let it. And if he didn't believe it, then he didn't believe it. But at least you told him. Like, at least you don't have to go to your grave knowing
Stannis
that.
said several times he don't have no love for Robert. So I guess he was like, yeah.
And probably part of him wanted him to die so he could become king.
Yeah, right. All the heirs.
Oh, go ahead.
I was saying, like, if all the heirs like illegitimate,
then it goes to him. It goes to him. So he thinks about his daughters. Ned thinks about his daughters, and he's like, he wants to cry, but the tears don't even come to him. Even now, he was a Stark of Winterfell, and his grief and his rage froze hard inside of him. He's talking about like his leg hurting real bad, and like not knowing how many days have gone by because he can't see the sun, he can't see the moon, all of that stuff. He thinks about Robert a lot while he's down there. And he says he saw the king as he had been in the flower of his youth, tall and handsome, his great antlered helm on his head, his warhammer in hand, sitting his horse like a horned god. He heard his laughter in the dark, saw his eyes blue and clear as the mountain lakes. Look at us, Ned, Robert said. Gods, how did we come to this? You here and me killed by a pig. We won a throne together. I failed you, Robert, Ned thought. He could not say the words. I lied to you, hid the truth. I let them kill you. The king heard him. You stiff-necked fool, he muttered, too proud to listen. Can you eat pride, Stark? Will honor shield your children? Cracks ran down his face, fissures opening in the flesh, and he reached up and ripped the mask away. It was not Robert at all. It was Littlefinger, grinning, mocking him. When he opened his mouth to speak, his lies turned to pale gray moths and took wing. So this is kind of like a dream that he's having, or like a vision that he's having. And it's interesting to me. A couple points are interesting. First, Robert saying, can you eat your pride, Stark? Like, we'll honor, shield your children. Because Ned went to King's Landing full of pride, full of almost entitlement to people's loyalty. Like, he felt entitled to it, and honor. And now he's in this fucked up position. And I feel like it really sets the tone. Like, Ned Stark is one of the characters that really set the tone for what the Game of Thrones is. It's a cutthroat game. You can't play with honor. You can't play with all of these right in these right ways that you deem as right, because nobody else is playing by those rules
at all. And that's, I think, whole Stark family, like, in their heads, the rules not the same. Catelyn, kids, all of
Yeah.
everybody, like especially everybody in King's Landing. Everybody is sick. Everybody politically savvy, out for themselves. They just wasn't prepared at all.
No, it's kind of like I wish he never, like, I know he had to leave Winterfell for the story to like happen the way it happened, but the North and the South is like night and day. Like the politics of the North and the politics of the South are night and day, and he should have stayed his
The
ass
North
in the
more
North.
raw.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, he
you
should have
say what you
stayed.
mean. Dead in open space. None of that schemes and plots and stuff.
And they all live by a code.
Yeah.
I mean, of course you're gonna have shady people. You're gonna have
The
shady people
Boltons.
like Roose Bolton. Like you're gonna have people like that. But at the end
For
of
the
the
most part,
day,
yeah, the entire North, like you said, live by the same codes, morals. Because like even though they with the phrase, they still saying, we ain't forget like this and that stuff. Like we ain't forget about it.
right. And a lot of what happened to Robb Stark is because Robb Stark lost the respect of his men, some of his men. But I feel like Roose Bolton, Rickard Karstark, they would have never turned on Ned Stark. They
No,
would have never turned on him.
no.
So he has another interesting dream, I guess. He says it was the year of the false spring, and he was 18 again, down from the Eyrie to the tourney of Harrenhal. He could see the deep green of the grass and smell the pollen on the wind, warm days and cool nights and the sweet taste of wine. He remembered Brandon's laughter and Robert's berserk valor in the melee, the way he laughed as he unhorsed men left and right. He remembered Jaime Lannister, a golden youth in scaled white armor, kneeling on the grass in front of the king's pavilion and making his vows to protect and defend King Aerys. Afterward, Sir Oswell went to help Jaime to his feet, and the White Bull himself, Lord Commander Sir Gerald Hightower, fastened the snowy cloak of the Kingsguard about his shoulders. All 6 white swords were there to welcome their newest brother. Yet, when the jousting began, the day belonged to Rhaegar Targaryen. The crown prince wore the armor he would die in, gleaming black plate with the 3-headed dragon of his house wrought in rubies on the breast. A plume of scarlet silk streamed behind him when he rode, and it seemed no lance could touch him. Brandon fell to him, and bronze Jan Royce, and even the splendid Sir Arthur Dane, the Sword of the Morning. Robert had been jesting with John and the old Lord Hunter as the prince circled the field after unhorsing Sir Barristan in the final tilt to claim the champion's crown. Ned remembered the moment when all the smiles died, when Prince Rhaegar Targaryen urged his horse past his own wife, the Dornish princess Ilia Martell, to lay the Queen of Beauty's laurel in Lyanna's lap. He could see it still, a crown of winter roses, blue as frost. Ned Stark reached out his hand to grasp the flowery crown, but beneath the pale blue petals the thorns lay hidden. He felt them clawing at his skin, sharp and cruel, saw the slow trickle of blood run down his fingers, and woke trembling in the dark. "Promise me, Ned," his sister had whispered from her bed of blood. She had loved the scent of winter roses. "God save me," Ned wept. "I'm going mad." So that is our first real introduction to the tourney at Harrenhal, which I feel is one of the major plot points, like backstories of this actual story.
Yeah, I think the whole story like really stuck. Well, the Song of Ice and Fire story definitely starts right there.
For sure. Like that. So the tourney of like moments from history that really are pivotal and important to the A Song of Ice and Fire story is definitely the tourney at Harrenhal, the Battle of the Trident, the killing of the Mad King, burning of Brandon and Ned. I mean, Brandon and Rickard Stark. Were you saying something?
I said the Tower of Joy.
Yeah, the Tower of Joy. For sure.
A lot of stuff happened before, off camera, off screen, whatever. That it's like all the information is pivotal to what's going on now.
Mm-hmm.
There's little subtle hints here and there. Like I love George writing.
I do too. Like the way that he puts in the exposition, like he gives you just enough to where it doesn't take you out of the story that's going on in the
But it make you
foreground.
speculate a little bit.
Yes. And he makes it so interesting. Like, not gonna lie, I really want to know what the hell went down at the tourney of Harrenhal. I want to know all the ins and out of the tourney
Definitely
of
with Ashara.
Harrenhal. And it's crazy because I was thinking about this the other day. Like, do you think Rhaegar Targaryen really won the jousting, or do you think that they let him win?
Well, you know what? Remember when at the tourney of the hand, Robert wanted to join, and it was like everybody just let you win, so you might be on to something.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of. Like, they're talking
But at
about
the same time, I don't know, because we got examples in the story of people not letting princes win or giving it they all against a prince and stuff like that. But I don't. That's a tough one. I don't know. But then they say that tournament was supposed to be a conspiracy against Ares anyway, so maybe they let him win, like John the Fiddler.
right. So that's kind of what I think is going on. So for the people that are listening, there is a theory, or basically it's not even really a theory, it's hinted at in the books. It's actually said in the books, I believe, that Rhaegar had staged the tourney at Harrenhal to get all the great lords together to talk about removing his father from the throne. And then Varys tells King Aerys, and King Aerys shows up at the tourney of Harrenhal looking crazy. Like, he comes in there with his hair all long, his fingernails all long. Like, yeah, he just looks crazy.
When I think about it, that it makes sense, because Ares has been trying to, keep the crown at minimal power since he's been there, preparing for Aegon.
Well, see,
So
that's the thing. Like,
everybody
everybody
know Rhaegar would have been a better king, right?
everybody says Varys. I believe Varys is a good person. I believe Varys really wants to bring stability to the realm, and
No,
that can't
he want his
be.
people on the throne.
That can't be. He wants a Blackfire king, because if he wanted peace in the realm, when Rhaegar was going to replace his father, Varys would have let him do it.
Yeah, he did, by any means made sure it happened.
But no,
If he wanted
Varys.
peace in the realm, he would have never killed Kevin Lannister. That's point blank.
Facts. I say that all the time. Kevin Lannister is a prime example of why Varys is an awful fucking person. Sure, kill Pycelle.
Yeah,
Pycelle's
please, yeah.
awful. Pycelle's awful. But when you kill Kevin Lannister, it's like, okay, he's a Lannister, but
But
he's made all this progress and he's bringing peace to the realm. He's securing Tommen's reign. He's making all of these alliances, and he's bringing,
he
like,
ending the wars, everything.
right.
He takes Cersei power from her, everything. Like, he doing everything to stabilize the realm. But you killed him because you want your people on the throne. And I feel
Right.
like he just wanted Ned and Tyrion, to keep the realm stable but separate, like everybody at odds with each other, but keep the realm stable until they was ready.
Right. Because he didn't even, first of all, they didn't even expect Daenerys to survive. They didn't
At
even
all.
expect Daenerys or Viserys to survive on the Dothraki Sea. And then if Daenerys was to come to Westeros, they only wanted her to come to start problems, to cause chaos.
Yeah.
So they wanted a war to break out, but not until Aegon was ready to come home.
Yeah, so then while she in the middle of war, hey, I'm your long lost nephew, swoop in, marry me, have some incest kids,
Yep. So Varys is not a good person. Varys
at
is
all.
not a good
Illyrio
person.
either. And Illyrio, all the hints show that Illyrio is a hard.
I can tell you another reason you can know Varys is not a good person. He cuts the tongues out of children.
Yeah.
He cuts the tongues out of children. So I'm trying to understand. So I don't think that Rhaegar was in love with Lyanna. Like, I just don't think he's the type of prince. Like, he's the type of person that acts solely off of prophecy. Like he reads a book and then one day he goes to the yard and starts fighting, learning how to fight because he's like, I must be a knight.
I
Like,
agree.
so for him to just say, fuck my wife and go and just fuck with Lyanna, I don't think that that's a thing. I think he might have grown to love her. But I think there was some kind of prophecy that he got from either the ghost of, well, I think it was the ghost of High Heart that led him to Lyanna, that led him to seek a Stark in particular.
Yeah. So my question is, so the way I figure, so like you said, Ned Dream was first glimpse of the tourney of Harrenhal we got, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, the big moment was him crowning Lyanna Queen of Love and Beauty, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my thing is like, how he knows to give her blue winter roses. Like
right.
they met, like that's my theory. Lyanna was the mystery knight. When Ari sent everybody after him, he caught her, they met and they liked each other. Like that's what I got from it.
Right. I mean, that I do believe Lyanna was the mystery knight. And also,
how did he know her favorite flowers though? Like they never met.
Right. And also Rhaegar, that's why I think Rhaegar staged it for him to win. Yeah. Because he would have had to have that crown of flowers pre-made.
Right, already prepared. Right.
That's why I think he staged it to win. And I feel like they let him win.
And what it was, which mystery night story, one of those, like that's the exact same plot line, basically.
Right. And another thing, like if it isn't that, they could have just had winter roses just because winter had just got finished. They think it's about to be spring, but it's not actually spring. But then again, like, do winter roses bloom everywhere or do they only bloom in the north?
I thought they were only in the north.
So I think they're only in the north too. So yeah, I think Rhaegar staged all of that shit.
Yeah, even the tourney to get her there and everything, I think.
Yep. And
I think Rhaegar a lot more magic than we give credit.
Oh, for sure, because he's so obsessed with prophecy and magic, which means to become obsessed with it, you have to believe in it. So if he believes in it, like, I mean, he was born in one of the most tragic moments of A Song of Ice and Fire, which was Summerhall. So he was born at Summerhall, and I believe that there was a lot of blood magic going down that night at Summerhall. It just didn't happen to work out.
Yeah.
So if he's born among that shit, of course, like
I don't know about that either, because so you seen the little burnt Maester letter of supposed to be what happened at Summerhall.
Yeah.
Like at the end, it was like hinting that like something came, like something came out or something. Like, you know what I mean? I can't remember the specific word.
I think it said would have if not for the Lord command, and then it stops. But I think they tried to hatch dragons.
Yeah, and
definitely. It's funny because I think it was Joe Magician that said that they might have saw Dany. They might have saw a vision, a dragon dream or something, and saw Dany, because when Dany hatches dragons, she has like she becomes bald-headed because all her hair goes away. Yeah. And Egg might have thought that was him because he used to shave his head and tries to hatch the dragons. And Maester Aemon talks about like blood magic and the father before the son. So they both die princes, and so they both die kings. So we know that Aegon dies and then his son Duncan dies as well. So that's two kings blood.
So my thing is like, what did he do? Did he drink wildfire like the one kid, or like I think they probably tried to sacrifice Jenny of Oldstones.
Jenny of Oldstones? Really?
Because I just think she's like part Children of the Forest. I think they tried to sacrifice.
I mean, I never thought about that. That's interesting. What I did think was that it's kind of similar. They tried to like do what Daenerys did. So they had two kings. So Daenerys technically sacrificed 2 kings, right? She
Yeah.
sacrificed Khal Drogo. He's a Khal, but Khal is just another
He's
word
a
for
king,
king in
right?
Dothraki. And then her son
Right. He
died after him, which was he died. Rhaego died, so that's 2 kings, and then a wood switch, a witch, a magi, which was
Right.
Miri Mazdor. So all 3 of those components were at
But
Summerhall. Ghost
but
of High
the
Heart,
Ghost of High Heart survived, but
she
any of those
survived.
stones didn't.
She survived, which is why I don't think it
Oh, that
worked.
might be why the magic didn't work.
Right. And also I think it didn't work because it wasn't meant to work, because
Yeah, it wasn't time.
it wasn't them that they saw in the dragon dream. It was Dany. It was Dany that they saw. Egg just thought it was him, maybe because of the bald head, but definitely it was Dany. But that was Joe Magician had said that on like I think his Summerhall stream like a couple years ago or a year ago. And ever since then I can't get it out of my head that Egg saw Dany in a
Yeah,
dragon dream.
and thought it was himself.
So Ned is in the dark. He's weak. He's desperate for water, for food. And then the door opens and he's like, who is it? And it's Varys. So Varys comes in and gives him wine. At first, Ned doesn't want to drink it. But so Varys drinks it first because Ned's like, are you trying to poison me? And then Varys drinks it so he knows that it isn't poison. And Ned asks about his daughters. He says, the younger girl escaped Sir Meryn and fled. I have not been able to find her, nor have the Lannisters. A kindness there. Our new king loves her not. Your older girl is still betrothed to Joffrey. Cersei keeps her close. She came to court a few days ago to plead that you be spared. A pity you couldn't have been there. You would have been touched. He leaned forward intently. I trust you realize that you are a dead man, Lord Eddard. And Ned says, the queen will not kill me. Cat holds her brother. And Varys then breaks the news like, first of all, it's not Jaime, it's Tyrion. And secondly, she lost him anyway. And Ned's like, well, if that's true, just slit my throat and kill me now. And Varys tells him, your blood is the last thing I desire. And Ned is like, when the queen did what she did, like you just stood there. And Varys said, and would again. And I would do it again. Like, I don't know what he expects Varys to do. Like, Varys doesn't have an army. Like,
right. He's barely a lord.
Right. If you don't have the gold cloaks, there's nothing. Like, the gold cloaks was what he needed, and he couldn't secure that.
Yeah, Renly. Yeah.
I mean, how, like, you're offering to pay Janis Slint gold. Cersei's making him the Lord of Harrenhal. In one stroke, she made him a great lord.
I mean, we still can't offer more gold than the Lannisters anyway. We can't outbuy them.
Really, he can't. Really, he can't. So Ned asks Varys, "Can you get me out of this pit?" And Varys says, "I could, but will I? No." Questions would be asked, and the answers would lead back to me. Ned had expected no more. You're blunt. I mean, that is a positive when it comes to Varys, but he wasn't blunt. Like, he should have. I wish he would have told Ned in the beginning, everything that was going on. But Ned also asks him like to take a message somewhere for him, and Varys is like, I'll give you paper and shit. I'll read it, and if I like the message, I'll deliver it. If not, I won't.
Right.
And Ned asks him like, what do you want? And Varys says, peace. Peace, Varys replied without hesitation. If there was one soul in King's Landing who was truly desperate to keep Robert Baratheon alive, it was me. For 15 years, I protected him from his enemies, but I could not protect him from his friends. What strange fit of madness led you to tell the queen that you had learned the truth of Joffrey's birth? The madness of mercy, Ned admitted. Ah, said Varys. To be sure, you are an honest and honorable man, Lord Eddard. Oftentimes I forget that. I have met so few of them in my life. He glanced around the cell. When I see what honesty and honor have won you, I understand why. And basically, they talk about Lancel giving the king the wine. And I found it interesting because basically what Varys implies is that because Cersei found out what Ned knew, she sped up Robert to death. But I find that like kind of odd because Robert was already gone. So how?
Ravens.
Sent a raven to
Riders.
Lancel?
I mean, maybe not a raven, maybe a rider, because I mean they only across the river.
Yeah. Varys basically says that she wouldn't have waited much longer in any case.
Anyway, right? Yeah. So they were going to kill him regardless, but once she knew Ned knew, it was like, boom, get this message to Lancel, get this message to my gods or whatever. Boom, get Robert out of here. So I think even if the boy didn't kill him, somebody would have killed him.
Yeah, he'd have fell from his horse or some kind of shit would have happened.
Or he'd have had a sickness of the bowels.
Mm-hmm, like John Aaron.
Everybody, every maester ever.
So Varys says, I know that the queen is going to pay you a visit. And Ned's like, why? And he says, Cersei is frightened of you, my lord, but she has other enemies that she fears even more. Her beloved Jaime is fighting the River Lords even now. Lysa Arryn sits in the Eyrie, ringed in stone and steel, and there is no love lost between her and the queen. In Dorne, the Martells still brood on the murder of Princess Ilia and her babes. And now your son marches down the neck with a northern host at his back. And Ned is kind of like shocked. He's like, Rob is only a kid. And Varys says, it isn't any of them that are giving her sleepless nights. It's Stannis and Renly. It's Robert's brothers. And Cersei is right to be afraid of Stannis, for sure. And Renly as well.
Stannis knows a lot. Yeah, he still has an army at the time. Like, and he's the closest person to King's Landing.
Mm-hmm.
He's sitting in Dragonstone.
Right. And Cersei, so Varys basically breaks down Cersei's nightmare. While her father and brother spend their power battling Starks and Tullys, Lord Stannis will land, proclaim himself king, and lop off her son's curly blonde head, and her own in the bargain, though I truly believe she cares more about the boy. Stannis Baratheon is Robert's true heir, Ned said. The throne is his by rights. I would welcome his ascent. Cersei will not want to hear that, I promise you. Stannis may win the throne, but only your rotting head will remain to cheer unless you guard that tongue of yours. And he tells him, like how Sansa begged for him in court. And he says, Cersei is no fool. She knows a tame wolf is more use than a dead one. You want to serve the woman who murdered my king, butchered my men, and crippled my son. And Varys says, I want you to serve the realm. And basically like, tell the queen that you'll confess and we'll let you go take the black and live out your days on the wall with your brother and that baseborn son of yours. And Ned says the thought of Jon filled Ned with a sense of shame and a sorrow too deep for words. If only he could see the boy again, sit and talk with him. Pain shot through his broken leg beneath the filthy gray plaster of his cast. He winced, his fingers opening and closing helplessly. Is this your own scheme? He gasped out at Varys. Or are you in the league with Littlefinger? So he basically says, I don't fuck with Littlefinger. Like, I make him think I fuck with him, but I really don't. But
I don't believe that.
You think he fucks with him?
I think Littlefinger fucks with him. Like, so we know Littlefinger whole thing, like, don't let nobody know who your friends are and stuff like that. And who is Littlefinger biggest enemy in everybody's eyes?
Right.
So I think even his sigil was because he was one of the little birds back in the day. I think Littlefinger.
Oh, that's crazy.
Peoples. I think that's his.
They both are to me. They're both the chess masters of Game of Thrones, and I felt like not seeing them get to go head to head or meet up again in season 8, or it just was like, come on, bruh.
Yeah, that's okay. Look, I don't talk about it. telling you, if my blood get the boiling, I'm gonna get the cussing, you're gonna get demonetized. Just leave it alone.
All right, we won't have to talk about season 8. But I think it's interesting. One of the things, like, Ned basically is like, I don't care about dying. Like, I don't care. Like, I'm a soldier. I'm prepared. I've been prepared to die my whole life, and my life is not that precious to me. And
Right.
Varys says, "What about your daughter's lives? What about your daughter's life? Think about Sansa. She's no more than a child. Rhaenys was a child too. Prince Rhaegar's daughter, a precious little thing, younger than your girls. She had a small black kitten she called Balerion. Did you know? I always wondered what happened to him. Rhaenys liked to pretend he was the true Balerion, the Black Dread of old, but I imagined the Lannisters taught her the difference between a kitten and a dragon quick enough. The day they broke down her door. Varys gave a long, weary sigh, and a sigh of a man who carried all the sadness of the world in a sack upon his shoulders. The High Septon once told me that as we sin, so do we suffer. If that's true, Lord Eddard, tell me, why is it always the innocents who suffer most when you High Lords play your Game of Thrones? Ponder it if you would, while you wait upon the Queen, and spare a thought for this as well. The next visitor who calls on you could bring you bread and cheese and the milk of the poppy for your pain, or he could bring you Sansa's head. The choice, my dear Lord Hand, is entirely yours. And that's how the chapter ends. But I want to talk about why I think Ned chose to confess. I think there are two main reasons. I definitely don't think it was for bread and cheese.
No.
It wasn't for bread and cheese. It was definitely for Jon. One of the main reasons I think he confessed is because he knew that
Jon now.
He would be able to see Jon, tell him the truth. He'd be able to, spare his children. I also think that was the second reason, to save his children.
Yeah, I think it was for Sansa and Jon, definitely. But I think it was like, it was stupid anyway. Like, why would you tell Cersei anything before you secure your kids? Because they kill kids.
Right.
Your whole big beef with the Lannisters is they came late and they killed children. Like, so why would you think your children is exempt?
He doesn't ever think about his own children. Like, even when he's talking about Rhaenys and Aegon, he's thinking like that applies to Joffrey and Myrcella and Tom, but he never thinks about his own kids. And it's kind of like ignorance in a sense, because he kind of comes to King's Landing like, I'm Ned Stark. Like, I'm a great lord of Westeros. Like, I'm not in danger. My children aren't in danger. Even though he says it time and time again, we've come to a dangerous place. But you don't really act like it's that dangerous, especially to your kids.
And then I feel like after Lord Brawling, he's figuring out everything with the kids not being Robert, and they had the little fight in the street, and his men got killed. He was just he was acting on emotion for real. Like, he wasn't thinking nothing through. He was just like, no, I'm gonna tell the truth about them. I'm gonna get them out of here. What?
Yeah.
Like, he just played it. He just played it so stupidly. Like, make sure you secure before you reveal what's going on.
Yeah, and to be honest, like, they gave him for what he did, even though what he did was right. In their opinion, he's wrong as shit for that, and he is a traitor to the king. So for them to give him that deal to go to the wall and to spare him, that is, a good deal. It is a good deal. And
that deal sound like he might not be lying. Like, no, like,
right. And at any point, he could have said, fuck these vows, fuck all this. And he could have, he still could have aided Stannis. Like, Stannis, like, if he'd have got to the wall and Stannis would have been fighting in the wars and all that shit. And when Stannis became king, Stannis could have, forswore his vows. Like, said, I grant you clemency. You don't have to be on the wall.
Right. Because he was there and for a wrong reason anyway. So why couldn't he? Like, just like how they legitimized bastards. Why couldn't he?
Just how, like, the king can do what he wants, just like how Joffrey like told Sir Barristan, like, you're not a Kingsguard anymore, even though those vows are for life.
Right.
So the king can do what he wants. So I think Stannis would have granted him that because like he supported his claim early on, and Stannis is the fucking reason he's in this situation. But what Cersei doesn't
Catelyn is the reason he in this situation.
She is
the root of all evil.
No, I would say he is the reason he's in this situation.
Yeah.
But Catelyn definitely, when she took Tyrion to put him against the wall.
Everything Catelyn did just sabotage. She gave some good advice though to Robb, but
yeah, and sometimes he didn't listen.
She tried to take actions into her own hands. She always won.
I'll never forgive her for freeing Jaime. If she
freeing Jaime did get everybody killed basically.
If they would have still had Jaime, Tywin Lannister would have never traded. Tywin Lannister would have never tried to do it, to join with Roose Bolton and the Freys, because Jaime would have been in imminent danger.
Yeah.
So it was the fact that Jaime was free. And like the Karstarks, if she didn't free Jaime, the Karstarks would have never turned on Robb.
Right. That weakened the army.
Yeah. So
looking at him funny.
Yeah. I mean,
I feel like every time she take action herself, she ruined everything. Like taking Tyrion, like even coming to King's Landing was just like dumb. Like you could have just sent Sir Roderick. Like, why did you have to go?
Or Theon.
Why did you have to go?
Or Theon. Nobody would have known who Theon was in King's Landing. Well, I mean, Robert would have known. Like the people that were in Winterfell would have known, but that was it. It a lot of what she did.
Sent somebody inconspicuous. They're not going to recognize Hollis Marlin or somebody, just a regular guard.
Right.
You know, so you can send anybody, but you chose to go yourself because you wanted to. She wanted to be in the mix from her very first chapter. Like she was making stuff move, making Jon move, and all that from her very first chapter.
Yeah, and I would say like Catelyn, I feel like George writes her like that on purpose. Like he writes her to be like an emotional mother that acts off of emotion for her children. So how I rationalize Catelyn Stark is the things that she does, she's doing them out of emotion, and she's doing them what she feels is protecting her children.
Yeah.
And you see it in those, when she's still Catelyn, her moves, however stupid people think they are, they're political. They're very political.
Yeah, she know how to look good to the public. It's save face.
But when she's Lady Stoneheart, she's just capping people.
Yeah. But I still feel like she even the reason Robb got killed, because Robb never told you to go in there and make a miracle thing.
That's true.
Like,
but Robb accepted it. But Robb accepted it though.
I mean, it would have never been probably. I probably was like, I don't got no choice now. I
don't even think she should have been the person that went in there to negotiate with Walder Frey. It should have been It should have been the Blackfish.
Yeah, it definitely should have been the Blackfish. They wasn't with the Blackfish yet, I thought.
Yeah, he was there.
He was there. Oh, he was there. He came down from the area with her.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it should have been the Blackfish because he gonna respect them. You feel me? Is not gonna put Robb in danger. Like I feel like she just every time she take matters into her own hand, she just screw her family over.
Right, and like who is Walder Frey to ask for all that? Like he didn't just ask for Robb to marry one of his daughters. He wanted Arya to marry one of his sons. It was like so much shit that he asked for. And I guess in Walder Frey's defense, Tywin Lannister's sister is married to one of Walder Frey's sons, I think.
Yeah.
So he was kind of torn between two sides. But at the end of the day,
he wasn't torn. Walder Frey is on his side. You know that.
I know, but for him to make a decision on who to choose, he doesn't choose until battles are almost won. We see that on the Trident. He doesn't choose until battles. Like, he doesn't come to the trident until the fighting's over.
Just like
his army doesn't get there.
He wasn't going to let them through the bridge, even though Catelyn is his father, is his liege lord. He wasn't going to let them through without a marriage to the future king if y'all win.
Yeah.
So it was all about himself from the beginning. When he felt like he got slighted and he felt like they let Jaime go, they're going to lose anyway. Yeah, get him out of here.
To her credit, though, she did tell Robb that she doesn't trust him. And she did tell Robb that...
So why would you arrange a marriage?
He shouldn't trust him either.
So why would you arrange a marriage with, like, I'll be like, we're going to have to discuss terms after the war. Either that or we going to seize you right here. Like, can't go south, our people south. Like, what you going to do?
Yeah, I think the cruelty of all of it, is that
Ned dies when he crosses the bridge.
Like, Robb is in such a hurry that Robb will do anything to cross this bridge to go save his father. But then once he crosses, Ned dies. And that's like how cruel it is. But Kat gives him a lot of good advice. He doesn't listen to her, especially when it comes to Theon. Like, she's like, don't send Theon.
I feel like I don't really blame him for not listening about Theon, only because that's Kat personality. She is spiteful. Like, she treat Jon that way. If it was Jon with them, if Jon never went to the wall and Jon was at war with them and he said, I want to send Jon to go treat with somebody, she like, no, I don't trust him. You shouldn't trust him. He's going to trade on you.
But
he wants your throne.
She doesn't. It's not that she doesn't trust Theon. She doesn't trust Balon.
Yeah, she don't trust Theon either.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I think her main concern is Balon.
Yeah. Balon did exactly what she knew he was going to do.
Yeah, like, and you could tell that Theon is very, like, conflicted and approval seeking. So I think she was right about that. And she was also right when she said, any man that Grey Wind doesn't like, I don't like.
Yeah, that was the realest thing she ever said.
Yeah, but we got so off topic.
Very off topic.
But so that was the last Ned Stark chapter. That was Ned 15. We will never see the inside of Ned's mind again. I want to thank you for coming on. And it was a good time talking about Eddard and Cat and all of the stuff we got to talk about. And I will see you guys next week. Bye.